He lives all the way across the country, and there is not a day where I'm not scared that he's not going to just show up and try to do something. One of the thoughts I remember from 7th grade is I woke up one morning and I looked at my belts that I had for, outfits or whatever, and I was like, I could just make it all stop right now and nothing would hurt. Hi, my name is Tawny. I'm 31, and I've been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder. He and I were rebuilding our relationship for a while because growing up he wasn't a very good, kind, or nice parent. There was lots of verbal and emotional abuse. So growing up in a household like that was really hard. I have 2 younger siblings, and it was always a game for him of how could he pit us against each other. He would put down anything that I liked if it wasn't sports related. I liked music and art, and it was always him screaming at me that I was never good enough and I was never going to go anywhere with it. He would never outright say he regretted having me, but he would make it very clear through every other thing he would say. I remember one time he didn't like that I wore jeans and a white shirt with a hoodie to school, and that I had my guitar on my back for guitar class. And that combination pissed him off. He grabbed me by my hair and tried to throw me out of the car while he was driving. It was a lot of stuff like that, a lot of him losing his temper on me and then crying to me and apologizing later about how he's just in so much pain and how he doesn't know why he behaves like this, and then turning around doing the same thing again the next day.
Could you tell us how does your day look like with all of your diagnoses?
Yeah, what living with these disorders looks like is a lot of learning how to self-regulate. So I'm going to start with the PTSD just because I feel like that's the one that can be like most misunderstood at times. But it's post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lot of people think it only comes from, being in war or something like that, but mine came from abusive relationships, whether in my family or with a past partner. It looks like a lot of nightmares, a lot of body pain because you're constantly in fight or flight mode, which doesn't help with the anxiety because the anxiety is always going to be in the back of your head going, oh, well, this could happen. It hasn't happened yet, but it probably will. Or, hey, this happened in the past and this isn't the same person, but, wouldn't take much for it to happen again. And with the depression, for me, it feels like having no energy and having there be no reason behind it. It looks like having nothing going on and feeling like everything is on your shoulders and like you are drowning in everything that's going on. I'm still learning about my borderline personality diagnosis because it is newer. It looks like very extreme emotions and a lot of catastrophizing. So, for example, my husband and I, we would get in arguments, and the first place my brain would go is, okay, well, this is an argument over who should do the dishes. Clearly he's going to leave me, and my world is ending. I'm not going to have a place to live. I'm not going to have a partner. I'm going to be a single mom again. Everything's collapsing around me. Why am I even here? And then it spirals into thoughts of, I shouldn't even be here and everyone else will be better off without me.
Sounds like one thought leads to another thought.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah. Okay. What about your mom? How was she with you guys?
She was really cool. A lot of the stuff that we went through as kids, she didn't know about until later. Because my dad would always make the threat of, if you tell her, I'll come after her next. So it took a long time for anything to come out to her. She was an artist. She did a lot of really cool paintings and stuff. So she would encourage that side of us even when he wouldn't. She's where I began to see, like, no matter how bad life is, there's always something good there too. She is still with my father out of her own fear that he will die alone. She's always been just amazing and so supportive and just such a kind-hearted person. I did have issues with self-harm, even up until recently. This is really dark, but one of the thoughts I remember from 7th grade is I woke up one morning and I looked at my belts that I had for, outfits or whatever, and I was like, I could just make it all stop right now and nothing would hurt. It was around the time that I had my first kid that I got properly diagnosed with depression and anxiety. My oldest, her father was he never laid a hand on me, but he was very emotionally abusive. There was a lot of gaslighting, a lot of manipulation, and it was a very painful time, and that relationship ended in me trying to kill myself. It ended in him saying, well, our daughter would be better off without you anyway. So, don't know what you're still doing. I was really depressed and not coping well. I had nightmares constantly, either of my dad or of my ex. And I, at the time, was drinking a lot whenever my daughter wasn't with me because I couldn't cope any other way. I was dating a lot of people on Tinder, just seeing people, and I found some pretty horrible people that way too. And I was sexually assaulted more than a few times, more than I care to admit. And during that time is when I found my current husband. And we started out as just friends. He lived like a block away from me, so I'd go over to his house and just hang out, or he'd come over a little bit and we would just talk about everything. And he had this mindset of nothing's a disaster because it is what it is. You got to just accept it and move forward. And he used to make me so angry whenever he'd say that because I was like, what do you mean it is what it is? No, it's not. There's so much more. He's like, but there's not. And if I hadn't met him, I don't think I would have as quickly broken out of the toxic coping. And he's the one who actually encouraged me to get back into therapy and see what else was going on. The BPD diagnosis came a lot later, and it was from my husband and I went through a really bad rough patch because he would say something and I would take it and turn it into the extreme and spiral down. Oh, the world is ending. I'm trash. I shouldn't be here. And I remember telling my therapist that, and she goes, has anyone ever mentioned this to you? Because this is kind of what it seems like you might have. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she goes, well, you you spiral out with this kind of stuff, and that's not a typical experience. And she's looking at, the PTSD and everything else as well, and she goes, I think this is worth exploring a little bit more for you. So I'm still trying to figure out what exactly to do with that, but it does kind of make me take a second and breathe now and be like, okay, is my world actually ending, or is he just upset that I told him I'd take out the garbage and I didn't? I don't know if it really changed my life all that much, so much as it changed the way I look at everything. Having PTSD changed my life in the way that it did kind of make me, it's hard being in fight or flight mode constantly. And so that's more so what that brought on for me. And learning how to kind of talk myself down from that. It's been a huge shift in coping mechanisms too, versus like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want and there's no consequences, I'll be fine. To now I do kind of overthink every single thing I do because I am afraid of all potential outcomes. And the BPD, I'm not entirely sure yet just because it is so new. I do know since getting the diagnosis, I've taken a lot more time to just slow down and breathe and think through my reactions a little more clearly.
What methods do you use to help your conditions?
So I do a lot of writing. I write a lot of poetry. I used to write a lot of song lyrics, but that's just not really been the case so much recently. And I do artwork. I paint, I do little drawings, just stuff like that. Here. This painting, which kind of represents just drowning in emotions, whether good or bad. Emotions can be really, really overwhelming. If got this one, which I'm really, really proud of. I love this painting so much. So it's a heart. It's a melty heart. And there's a bunch of darkness surrounding it, and the darkness is a lot of the pain and anxiety and stuff like that. And then, you know, when you get a hug from someone that you really care about and you just kind of melt into them and it's like you got all this love, that's that. And it's simple. It's really cute. It's based off a moment where I felt it was one of my happiest moments. I was sitting in the back of a friend's car, and my friends were in the front seat, and the windows were kind of foggy because it was really cold, so I just started drawing smiley faces on the window. And then by the time we got out of the car, they're like, there are so many smileys, like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, did a little painting to commemorate that.
What do you think are some of the misconceptions that people have about mental health?
I feel like a lot of people think that when people are asking for help, that it's just a cry for attention, and it's not. If someone's coming to you and saying, hey, this is hurting, I really need help, they've probably been hurting for a while. And I mean, it's like if you see someone with their arm dangling off and they're like, hey, this has been going on for a few days, this doesn't feel so good. You wouldn't look at them and be like, oh, you're just doing that for attention. You'd be like, oh, we should probably get you some help immediately. I think a lot of people also have the misconception that a mental illness makes someone not less of a person, but like it dehumanizes them in a way, which I think at the end of the day, we all have things we struggle with, and if anything, that makes us more human.
How would you like to be helped?
I think just having someone be willing to listen and not judge, because so often people are willing to listen, but they're going to judge you for it or look at you weird about it, and that doesn't help. At the end of the day, it just makes you a lot more scared to do anything about what's hurting. And I think people just having patience to work with you while you're learning how to help yourself. I will say I have lost friends because of what I deal with, because they didn't have the patience to work with me, and that's fine. Not everyone's going to have that patience, but people who do, it means more than they'll ever know.
Some people feel trapped while others thrive because of their mental health and what they went through, what they've struggled with. And which stage do you think you are in now, and where do you see yourself in the future?
I don't think I'm in the trapped stage anymore. I also don't think I'm thriving. I'm somewhere in between, but going towards thriving, because I'm coming to understand and be comfortable with myself. I'm learning that while I do have these diagnoses, they don't really define who I am still. I'm still me. That's not going to change. I just have some extra stuff to learn about and work through. The biggest lesson I've learned is that you really never know what someone's dealing with. I've had people be absolutely shocked by the stuff that I told them. I've had people who are like, yeah, I guess that, you know, it's something about the hair. The piercings give it away. But it's also like, you can't really judge someone just by looking on the outside, because you don't know what they're dealing with on the inside. You don't know who's struggling on a day-to-day basis just to get out of bed. And it's about learning to find that patience with everyone else that you want people to have with you.
Any last words?
I don't know.
Okay.